My name is Randall Grayson. I'm 34 years old, a combat-tested Army captain, and this story isn't about war. No, the battlefield I barely escaped wasn't in Afghanistan or Iraq, it was in my own family's living room. The people who should have supported me, protected what I loved while I was away, are the ones who destroyed it all behind my back. I grew up in a modest but proud home in Fort Worth, Texas. My father, Henry Grayson, a retired financial advisor, and my mother, Judith, a perfectionist homemaker, made sure we always looked good in front of the neighbors, even if it meant suffocating behind closed doors. I was their golden boy until I made the one decision they never forgave me for: I joined the military. They wanted doctors and lawyers, not soldiers. I could see the disappointment each time I came home in uniform. My younger brother, Daniel, 5 years my junior, was everything I wasn't. Ivy League educated, polished, charming, a future senator if you asked my father. While I was marching through sand and sleeping under fire, Daniel was getting bottle service in downtown Dallas and using my absence to climb his way into everything I left behind. Especially her. Her name was Natalie. And to me, she was everything. A trauma nurse, level-headed and beautiful, the type of woman who didn't flinch in emergencies. We met at a mutual friend's cookout 8 years ago. She was laughing at a joke someone else told, and I didn't even care, I just wanted to be near that sound. We fell hard. Even after my deployments, we stayed solid. I proposed to her under the big oak tree behind my parents' house 6 months before my latest deployment. Her eyes filled with tears, and she said the one word that kept me breathing through gunfire: yes. Before I left, I asked her, "Will you wait for me?" "I've waited this long, Randall." "Of course I will." I left with a promise in my heart, and a ring on her finger. But promises don't mean much when you're not there to defend them. I served 14 months straight. Every week I wrote Natalie letters, long, sometimes rambling ones where I told her everything. The days I went on foot patrols through villages, the nights I couldn't sleep from shelling, the guys I lost. She didn't respond often, but I figured the mail was unreliable. Out there, everything is slow and uncertain. I held on to her silence like faith. I believed in her. I had to. I sent one final letter before I boarded the plane home, telling her I couldn't wait to see her again. That I had plans to start our life together right, buy a house, maybe even leave the army. I imagined the airport reunion over and over in my head. Natalie running into my arms, crying with joy. My parents welcoming me home with a warm meal, pride in their eyes, and Daniel handing me a cold beer like the little brother he used to be. But that's not what happened. When I stepped off the plane and turned on my phone, there were no messages from Natalie. None from my parents either. My gut twisted, but I told myself they just wanted to surprise me at the house. The ride back to Fort Worth was filled with heat and dust. I stared out the cab window, the ring box heavy in my pocket, my fingers brushing the velvet like it was sacred. When we pulled up to my parents' house, nothing looked out of place. Same brick walls, same manicured bushes. But the silence? That was new. I opened the door and stepped inside. My mother was in the kitchen. She turned around like I was an uninvited guest, not her son returning from war. "Oh. Randall. You're early." "Early?" I blinked, confused. "Where's Natalie?" She knew I was coming. She wiped her hands on a towel, avoiding my eyes. "She's not here." "What do you mean? Did something happen?" She sighed, her voice clipped. "She's married, Randall. To Daniel. They live in Austin now." My ears rang. I thought I'd misheard her. "You're lying." She didn't flinch. "She married your brother 6 months ago." I stood there, numb. I looked around for signs it was some kind of joke, a prank gone wrong. But my father came out from the study and confirmed it with one sentence that shattered everything inside me. "You were gone too long, son. She needed someone here." Daniel stepped up. No remorse. No guilt. Just a blank stare like I was the one who should feel ashamed. I staggered back, like I'd taken a bullet straight to the chest. I dropped my bag on the floor, the ring box still clenched in my shaking hand. I didn't say another word. I turned and walked out that front door as if it were a war zone. And in a way, it was. I didn't sleep that night. I wandered the streets of Fort Worth, the city that used to feel like home now foreign and hostile. My boots, still crusted with desert sand, hit the pavement like lead. I passed the oak tree where I proposed. The tree still stood tall. But my world had collapsed. I wanted to believe there was a misunderstanding. That maybe she was forced, maybe Daniel tricked her. But deep down I knew. Something else was going on. And I was going to find out. I didn't go back to the motel that night. I couldn't. I sat in my truck outside a 24-hour gas station, the engine off, the ring box on the passenger seat like it was mocking me. Every time I looked at it, my chest tightened. My hands trembled, not from war, but from betrayal. They did it. My parents. My own blood. And Daniel, my brother, he took everything. Natalie. The woman who had once looked me in the eye and said she'd wait. The woman who held me when I came back with burns down my arm and a limp from a roadside explosion. Gone. Not to a stranger, not to someone I didn't know, but to him. My brother, Daniel. The next morning, I stood at the front gate of the Grayson house again. Not because I wanted to forgive. I just needed answers. My father was in the yard, clipping the hedges like nothing had happened, like he hadn't just ripped his firstborn's soul apart. He looked up and gave me a nod, as casual as someone greeting a mailman. I didn't speak at first. I walked right past him into the house. My mother sat at the dining room table, sipping tea. "You're back," she said flatly. "I want to know why," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Why didn't anyone tell me? Why didn't Natalie tell me?" "She tried," my mother replied, looking at her cup. "But we told her not to. We told her you didn't want her anymore." "What?" I froze. "You were gone for over a year, Randall. You didn't call. You didn't respond to her texts." "I wrote to her every week," I said, my voice rising. "I poured my soul into every letter. She didn't look up. We intercepted them. It was like my mind split open." "You what?" "I read them before she ever saw them. Most of them, she never did. We were protecting her. You had no right." I screamed, my hand slamming the table. That was between her and me. She deserved someone present, my mother snapped. Not a soldier hiding in a desert. I stared at her in horror. "You manipulated her. She was vulnerable," she said. "Daniel helped her through a difficult time. Things evolved." "That's not love," I said. "That's betrayal. Call it what you want," she said with a shrug. "But they're married now. And she's happy. You need to let it go." I stormed out of that house, my heart pounding in my ears. My fingers itched to tear through every room until I found those letters, every single one they hid from her. I went straight to Natalie's old apartment, but it was vacant. The landlord told me she and Daniel had moved to Austin months ago. I sat in my truck outside that building for an hour. I couldn't cry. I couldn't scream. I just sat there like something had died inside me. Because something had. I wasn't just mourning the loss of a woman. I was mourning trust. Family. The very foundation of who I thought I was. I found a cheap studio apartment across town. No furniture. No bed. Just a mattress on the floor and a chair in the corner. I left the ring box in a drawer and avoided touching it. I didn't unpack. What was there to unpack? Just uniforms and dust from a war that suddenly seemed easier than the one I was in now. I stopped eating. I stopped sleeping. I stared at the ceiling every night wondering how it all went so wrong. I thought of Natalie. Her laugh. The way she wrinkled her nose when she got flustered. The scent of her hair when she curled up beside me. And now. She was with him. I wondered if she wore the same perfume. If she smiled the same way. If she still kept a mug with my name etched into it at the back of her kitchen cabinet. Then one night, I snapped. I went to the liquor store and bought a bottle of bourbon. I sat in the dark with that bottle and poured glass after glass until my vision blurred and my thoughts blurred with it. I remember talking to the wall. Or maybe to the air. You said you'd wait, I whispered. But she didn't. And I couldn't forgive that. The next day, I woke up with the worst hangover of my life, my head pounding like a drum. The ring box was sitting beside my pillow. I don't remember pulling it out. I opened it. Looked at the simple silver band. The one I carried across enemy lines, through sandstorms and gunfire. All for nothing. I thought about throwing it out the window. But I didn't. Instead, I picked up my phone. And I called the only person who might know the real story, Natalie's best friend. Her name was Camila. She answered after the second ring. Randall, she said, surprised. Are you okay? No, I said. I need to know the truth. About Natalie. About my family. About what really happened. There was silence. Then, meet me at the cafe on 5th and Main. Noon. I didn't even bother changing. I drove there in the same clothes I'd slept in. When I arrived, Camila was already waiting. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying. She looked at me like I'd come back from the dead. She didn't waste time. Randall, she said, voice low, Natalie didn't betray you. Your family did. Camila's words hit me like a second deployment I didn't sign up for. Natalie didn't betray you. Your family did. We sat in a booth in the back of the cafe, the air thick with roasted coffee and the quiet hum of casual conversations around us, none of which could drown out the pounding in my chest. Start from the beginning, I said. Don't sugarcoat anything. She took a breath, her fingers trembling slightly as she wrapped them around her mug. Natalie tried to hold on. She checked the mail every day. 4 months. She cried when nothing came. But I wrote, I said, my voice a hoarse whisper. I wrote her every week. I believe you, Camila said. And so did she. At first. But then your mom started, saying things. I frowned. Like what? She told Natalie you weren't planning to come back. That you'd extended your tour. That you didn't want a civilian life anymore. That you were avoiding her letters, said you were distancing yourself. I blinked. That's a lie. I never said anything like that. Camila nodded. I know. Natalie didn't believe it at first. But your mom, she was persistent. She showed up at the hospital a few times, even brought Daniel with her. Said they were just checking in. But it didn't stop there. What else? She told Natalie you were seeing someone overseas. I felt like the floor disappeared beneath me. I stopped. There was no point defending myself. Camila knew. Why would they do that? Why? Her eyes darkened. Because Daniel wanted her. And your mother was all too happy to hand her over. The chair creaked beneath me as I shifted. And Natalie believed them. She didn't at first. But when your letters stopped, because they were intercepted, when Daniel kept showing up at her job with food, flowers, kind words, she started to break. Camila's voice cracked then. I tried to talk her out of it. I told her something was off. But Natalie, she was lonely. Broken. And no one thought to call me? Not once. She flinched. She tried. She emailed you once from my laptop. But the message bounced back. Your mom later told her you'd changed your email. I think she gave her the wrong address on purpose. I sat back, jaw clenched so tight it ached. So they gaslit her. She fought it, Randall. For a long time. But after 6 or 7 months, your mom convinced her that you weren't coming back. That you were gone, physically and emotionally. I stared at my hands. Calloused. Scabbed. Burned from the desert sun. Hands that wrote every letter by flashlight, during watch, after patrols. Hands that held on to hope. For what? Camila reached into her purse and pulled out a worn envelope. She wrote this the day Daniel proposed. She never sent it. I opened it with trembling fingers. It was Natalie's handwriting. Randall, if you're reading this, it means you came back and found out. I don't know what to say. I waited for you. I did. But I never heard from you. Your mom said things. Things I didn't want to believe. But I was alone. I thought you had moved on. Daniel was there. He said you were never coming back. I was angry. Lost. Tired. And maybe, just maybe, I needed something to fill the silence you left behind. But know this, I never stopped loving you. Not even once. I closed my eyes, holding the letter to my chest like it could bring her back. But it was too late. Or was it? I looked up at Camila. Where are they now? Austin. They bought a house together. Married 3 months ago. Something inside me twisted. Do you think she's happy? Camila didn't answer right away. Then she said softly, she doesn't smile much anymore. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling of my empty apartment, my mind racing through images and voices and what-ifs. They took her from me. Not just my brother. My mother. My father. They made sure she never saw my words. They buried the truth and handed her off like some kind of prize. Like I didn't exist. Like my service, my love, didn't matter. I went to the liquor cabinet and reached for the bottle, but stopped myself. No. Not this time. I needed to think. To act. To plan. I pulled out my old footlocker and went through it piece by piece. Uniforms. Dog tags. My journal, pages of letters I'd copied before sending them to Natalie. Dates. Times. Everything documented. If they thought I was going to lie down and accept it, they had underestimated what war had made of me. I sat down at my desk, opened my laptop, and began researching privacy law, interference with federal mail, and identity theft. My parents thought they could silence the truth. They didn't know me anymore. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was a coordinated deception. And I was going to tear it apart piece by piece. I didn't sleep for days. Not out of grief anymore, but calculation. Every betrayal needs a reckoning. And my family? They didn't just rob me of love, they violated my service, my honor, and the very person I used to be. Natalie's letter stayed on my desk. I read it every night. Not because I wanted to reopen the wound, but because I wanted to remember why I was doing this. Her words were the fuel. I didn't want violence. I didn't want blood. I wanted consequences. First step, gather intel. My old buddy Travis, retired now, ex-Army intelligence, owed me a favor. He once hacked into a local politician's personal server to expose fraud. He wasn't just good, he was paranoid level brilliant. I texted him. Need your help. This is about stolen letters, family betrayal. I'll pay. He replied in less than 5 seconds. If this is about the girl, say no more. Come by tonight. Travis lived in a basement apartment that looked like a cross between a server farm and a war bunker. He met me at the door in boxers and a hoodie, holding a Red Bull. "All right, Captain," he said. "Let's find out who stole your past." I handed him my journal. The dates I wrote and sent each letter. He pulled up a spreadsheet and started logging them all. "Here's what I'm gonna do," Travis said, fingers flying across his keyboard. "We'll cross-reference outgoing mail scans from the base with recipient addresses. Your folks ever use informed delivery?" "They signed up for it after I deployed," I replied. "Said it made things easier." "Idiots," he grinned. "That means the USPS has proof of every incoming letter, including images." Within hours, Travis cracked into archived postal records tied to my parents' address. He pulled up screen captures, dozens of them. There it was. My handwriting. My letters. My return address. All marked as delivered. And yet, Natalie never received them. Travis leaned back. "They didn't just hide your letters. They intentionally destroyed federal communication. That's mail fraud, and it's a felony. 5 years per offense." I swallowed hard. "I want to build a case. Not just criminal, but public." "You want to blow this up?" "No," I said. "I want to expose it. Strategically. Maximum impact." Step 2, contact Sarah. Sarah Reynolds was a name I hadn't spoken in 10 years. She was an old friend from college, now an investigative reporter for the Texas Ledger. Her exposés had taken down 2 state officials. She was precise. Brutal. Honest. And she owed me a favor. Once, when a drunk at a frat party cornered her, I'd intervened. I sent her a message. "Need to talk. I have a story. One that will blow the roof off a lie. But I stay anonymous." She replied within the hour. We met at a diner just off the interstate. I handed her a binder with scanned images from Travis, photocopies of the intercepted letters I'd recovered from my parents' home, and Natalie's unsent confession. Sarah sat there, flipping page after page, eyes wide, jaw tightening. "Randall. This isn't just betrayal," she whispered. "This is sabotage. Gaslighting. Fraud. And the fact that it happened while you were serving overseas?" She closed the binder gently. "I'll write it," she said. "I'll bury them with the truth." Step 3, legal firepower. I contacted Gloria Kent, a civil litigation attorney known for dragging corrupt executives through the mud. She was ruthless, brilliant, and absolutely fearless. After I explained what happened and showed her the evidence, she looked at me and asked one question. "Do you want vengeance, or justice?" "Both," I said. "In full." She agreed to take the case pro bono after reading Natalie's letter and reviewing the postal logs. "Your parents opened, intercepted, and destroyed protected communication. You may have civil and criminal grounds, and the court of public opinion will eat them alive." She filed the motion discreetly but effectively, naming both my parents and my brother Daniel in a multi-claim suit involving mail fraud, intentional emotional distress, and interference with a legal engagement. I wanted to laugh. Not because I was happy, but because it felt like the first breath I'd taken in months. Step 4, the trap. I wasn't done yet. I needed one more piece. Daniel himself. Camila helped me. She said Natalie had started to withdraw from Daniel, he was drinking more, staying out late, growing controlling. So I did something risky. I sent Daniel a message from a burner email, posing as a journalist claiming to have received a tip about his marriage to Natalie and allegations involving his brother. I watched the tracker light up. Email opened. Clicked. Forwarded. Exactly as planned. 2 days later, Daniel called me. His number popped up on my screen like a curse I didn't want to say out loud. I let it ring. Then I answered. "Randall," he began, his voice tight. "You need to stop whatever you're doing." I didn't say a word. "You're trying to ruin my career, my life, why? You left." Natalie moved on. "Get over it." I leaned into the silence. Let it hang. Then I said one word. "Soon." And hung up. His voice. It cracked. Not with fear. But with guilt. That night, I sat in my apartment staring out at the streetlights glowing against the asphalt. The war had shifted. I was no longer the abandoned soldier with a broken heart. I was the one drawing the map now. And every step my family took from here on out would be mine to watch and destroy. If betrayal is a fire, then justice is the slow burn that follows. I didn't want revenge that exploded in a single moment. I wanted it to seep in, quiet, calculated, undeniable. I wanted them to feel it. Every last second of it. The first domino to fall was Daniel. I knew the firm he worked for in Austin. Reynolds and Boone, a white shoe law firm filled with golden boys who drank espresso with pinky fingers up and played golf with judges. Daniel had joined them 2 years ago, riding his law degree and my parents' connections. On paper, he was brilliant. In truth, he was mediocre, at best. I contacted Sarah again. The article she was crafting was nearly done. She offered me a draft to review. I told her no. Let it hit raw. She smiled. You'll get your preview when the world does. We waited for Friday. Morning edition. The day with the highest readership. At exactly 8:03 a.m., the article went live. Betrayed from the battlefield, how one soldier's family stole his letters, his fiancée, and his future. It didn't use my real name. I was Captain R. Natalie was N. My family, veiled behind high-profile individuals in Fort Worth, were described as having intercepted and withheld dozens of personal communications, influencing the fiancée to believe she'd been abandoned, resulting in her eventual marriage to the soldier's own brother. Sarah's language? Devastating. Poetic. Precise. She included scanned images of some of the letters. Excerpts of Natalie's unsent confession. Even digital metadata showing how emails sent to me were rerouted or blocked via a family computer. By 10 a.m., the story had gone viral. Veterans groups shared it. Military spouses reposted it. Hundreds, thousands, of comments flooded in. This is unforgivable. Family should protect, not sabotage. I'm in tears. I deployed too. I know what those letters mean. To the soldier who lived through this, if you're reading this, we see you. We believe you. By noon, Daniel's firm released a cold public statement. We are aware of disturbing allegations involving one of our junior partners and are conducting an internal review. By 4 p.m., Daniel's LinkedIn account disappeared. The man who stole my love. He was being stripped publicly. Brick by brick. But I wasn't done. My parents became the next front. My mother's garden club meetings. Cancelled. Neighbors stopped waving. Her carefully curated image as the elegant, gracious matriarch of Fort Worth society. Shattered. My father's once tight circle of golf buddies and country club peers began pulling away, afraid their names might be connected to the scandal. But the worst came from the legal system. Gloria Kent, my attorney, filed a federal complaint for intentional interference with mail and communications. She'd been building it for weeks. The evidence we had was damning: dates, delivery confirmations, the computer activity logs Travis pulled, and even metadata on the family printer used to scan and discard letters. They weren't just morally wrong. They were criminally liable. Gloria's courtroom motion made the local news. Retired Fort Worth couple under investigation for federal mail fraud after soldier's letters intercepted. I watched it live from my apartment. My phone buzzed 5 times that night, calls from blocked numbers. I didn't answer a single one. Then came the moment I didn't expect. Natalie reached out. Camila texted me first. She read the article. She knows everything now. She wants to meet. My heart did a strange thing. It didn't leap. It didn't sink. It just paused. For the first time since I came home, I didn't know what I felt about her anymore. But I agreed. We met at a small park halfway between Austin and Fort Worth. Just grass, trees, and a single wooden bench facing a pond. I arrived early, sat down, and waited. 10 minutes later, she walked toward me. She looked thinner. Her hair was shorter. Her face tired. But her eyes, those gray-blue eyes I knew so well, were filled with tears. She sat next to me but didn't touch me. Just stared straight ahead. I didn't know, she whispered. Randall. I'm so sorry. I didn't say anything. I let the wind do the talking. They told me you'd left me, she said. That you'd moved on. That you'd stopped writing. I checked the mailbox every day. 4 months. She looked down at her hands. I married Daniel because I was tired of hurting. I thought he was safe. But he wasn't. He was manipulative. Controlling. He isn't you. I turned my head toward her, finally. You let them lie to you, I said, my voice quiet. You gave up on me. Tears ran down her cheeks. I know. And I'll regret it for the rest of my life. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just nodded. We sat there for 10 minutes in silence. I'm divorcing him, she said. I already filed. I'm not here for that, I replied. She nodded. I know. I just wanted you to know I still love you. I closed my eyes. That was the cruelest part. Because I still loved her too. But love doesn't erase betrayal. And forgiveness doesn't mean reunion. I have to heal, I told her. I need space to figure out who I am now. I understand, she said, wiping her face. And if you ever want to talk again, I'll be here. She stood up, gave me one final look, and walked away. I stared at the pond until the sun dipped beneath the trees. Justice was moving. But the war wasn't over. There's a strange moment in every war, not the one with bullets, but the one that tears your soul apart, when you think you've reached the end. When you believe the worst has passed, the storm is fading, and peace is finally crawling in. But peace is a lie if the truth is still buried. 3 days after meeting Natalie in the park, I received a call from my attorney, Gloria. Her voice was tight. Measured. Randall, I need you to come in. There's something you should see. I drove to her office downtown, where the city buzzed with its usual indifference. Gloria ushered me into her office, closed the door, and handed me a manila folder. What's this? I asked. She looked me dead in the eye. Your mother filed a countersuit. My stomach turned. For what? She opened the folder and pointed. Defamation. Emotional distress. And, get this, damage to the family's reputation and financial standing. I stared at the papers, disbelief morphing into rage. She destroyed my letters, I said. She erased my future. And now she's claiming she's the victim. Gloria nodded grimly. She claims the article was a fabrication, that it grossly misrepresents the truth, and that you're engaging in a smear campaign out of personal jealousy and rejection. The audacity. The cruelty. The sheer delusion. But that wasn't the twist. Gloria leaned back in her chair. And here's where it gets worse. She slid over a printed email chain, subpoenaed by court order from Daniel's firm. It was between my mother, Judith Grayson, and Daniel. Subject line, silencing Randall. I read it. Every word. They hadn't just hidden my letters. They'd tracked down my base's communications officer. They used connections through a retired general my father once advised in banking. That man pulled strings, redirected a portion of my mail, even deleted emails from the base's outgoing server, all to support the narrative that I'd moved on. That I had abandoned Natalie. This wasn't neglect. This was a coordinated attack. And my mother orchestrated it like a war general with no conscience. I dropped the papers onto Gloria's desk. We need to go public with this, I said, voice steady. She hesitated. Are you sure? I nodded. It's not about vengeance anymore. It's about truth. We contacted Sarah. The new piece dropped 2 days later. Mother of Betrayal, the emails that prove it was all a lie. This time, names weren't protected. Judith Grayson. Henry Grayson. Daniel Grayson. My name, Randall, was revealed in full. I gave Sarah permission. I was done hiding. Done protecting the people who ruined me. The fallout was immediate. My parents' house was swarmed with local media. My father resigned from the HOA board. His face turned up in memes and satire columns. Daniel? He was fired. Not suspended, fired. The firm cited irreparable damage to client trust and conduct inconsistent with professional ethics. Natalie's divorce filing gained traction. She added emotional coercion, citing his knowledge of the deception. But the biggest twist hadn't landed yet. A week later, I received a package. No return address. Inside, a small voice recorder and a note. You need to hear this. It's from the day after you deployed. I pressed play. It was my mother's voice. Judith Grayson. In the background, the faint clink of coffee mugs. She was talking to someone, Natalie. He's not coming back, sweetheart. He says he will, but he won't. Soldiers like Randall, they marry war. Not women. You're too beautiful to waste your best years waiting. Daniel's here. He's grounded. Safe. Natalie's voice replied, small and unsure. But I haven't even heard from Randall yet. That's because he's moved on. You just don't know it yet. Click. The recording ended. My hands trembled. Not from anger, but heartbreak. They didn't just manipulate Natalie. They gaslit her into oblivion. I called Camila immediately. She confirmed what I feared. Randall. Natalie recorded that. She kept it hidden. Said she couldn't listen to it without breaking. Why now? She found the recorder after moving out. She wanted you to have it. The next morning, I submitted the recording to Gloria. She filed an amendment to our case. The judge reviewed it and threw out my mother's countersuit on the spot. Judith Grayson was now facing criminal investigation, tampering with communications and conspiracy to obstruct. Daniel faced potential disbarment. The final reversal came in the mail a week later. A letter. Handwritten. From my father. Randall. I won't ask you to forgive us. I know I don't deserve it. I stood by and let your mother steer this family into darkness. I thought I was doing what was best, but now I see it for what it was, cowardice. You were the better man all along. You fought for this country, for your love, and for your truth. And we betrayed you. I only hope someday you'll remember us with pity, not hate. Dad. I folded the letter. Tucked it in the same wooden box where I kept my medals, my dog tags, and the silver ring I once planned to give to Natalie. And I closed it. Not to forget. But to mark the moment the war ended, not in blood. But in truth, I always thought war would be the hardest chapter of my life. I was wrong. The hardest chapter was coming home and realizing the people I'd fought for had been the ones gutting me from the inside out. But now it was over. Or maybe just beginning. The legal proceedings wrapped up 3 months after the second article dropped. My mother, Judith Grayson, pleaded no contest to federal mail tampering and conspiracy to defraud. Her plea deal included probation, mandatory therapy, and a hefty restitution payment. My father withdrew from public life completely. The man who once walked like a statue now moved like a shadow, hunched, silent, forgotten. Daniel never recovered professionally. He was officially disbarred in the state of Texas. Last I heard, he moved to a small apartment in El Paso, trying to sell insurance door to door. A man who used to puff out his chest in court now avoided eye contact at gas stations. As for Natalie, she finalized her divorce. She emailed me once after that. A short message. I don't know if I deserve to ask for a second chance. But I want to thank you for telling the truth when I couldn't see it. I'm rebuilding now. I hope you are too. I didn't respond. Not out of anger. But peace. Because I had finally accepted that closure doesn't always come in reunion. Sometimes it comes in silence. 6 months passed. I moved to San Antonio, far from the whispers of Fort Worth, into a modest home with sunlit walls and creaky floors. I started volunteering at a veterans outreach center, helping others like me. Soldiers who returned to find their lives unrecognizable. There I met Terrence, a Marine who lost his leg to an IED. Simone, an Air Force tech sergeant fighting depression. And Malik, a fellow Army Ranger who hadn't spoken to his father in years. We formed a support group. No therapists. No judgment. Just real talk, black coffee, and wounds we didn't hide. One afternoon, after a particularly heavy session, Terrence said something that stuck with me. Man, betrayal don't break you. It teaches you how strong you really are. And he was right. I kept the silver ring. I didn't sell it. Didn't throw it away. I placed it in a frame on my shelf, next to my unit's deployment photo and a copy of the article Sarah wrote. Under it, I added a note. For the future that was stolen. And the man I became in spite of it. Then came the email that brought it full circle. It was from the Department of Defense. They'd read about my story, how I handled the betrayal with restraint, intelligence, and a refusal to let personal pain explode into chaos. They asked if I'd be interested in a new role. Family Readiness Officer. A liaison for service members and their families. Someone who could step in when soldiers couldn't be home, to ensure no one else suffered the way I did. I accepted. And in doing so, I realized something profound. My revenge wasn't just in destroying what they built on lies. It was in rebuilding something real. Something true. 1 year later, I stood in front of a group of young recruits and their families. We were at a send-off ceremony. I had just finished my speech when a mother walked up to me, holding her son's arm tightly. Captain Grayson, she said, tears in her eyes. Thank you. I read your story. I told my son, if you can survive what you did and still be this kind of man, then maybe he'll be okay too. I didn't say anything. I just placed my hand on the young soldier's shoulder. And smiled. Because for the first time in a long, long time, I believed it too. In the end, truth has a way of surfacing, even if it comes twisted through pain and betrayal. As one wise voice once said, sometimes your greatest enemy was once your closest ally. If this story struck a chord with you, let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and spread the word, because justice deserves to be heard.